How's it going, everybody? I'm Brian for Pop Culture Crossing, and today we are talking about Murder on the Orient Express. This movie is a 1974 silver screen adaptation of Agatha Christie's novel of the same name. The movie features an all-star cast that provides strong performances, a multi-layered story, and impressive production design and technicality. Complex as it is, however, the story does have some weaknesses. Nevertheless, if you're looking for a film whose mystery revolves around a small, confined cast of characters, then you're likely going to be entertained by this one. The story takes place in the context of a kidnapping and murder, which were horrifying and occurred 5 years prior. Now, in the modern day, renowned investigator Hercule Poirot is traveling on the Orient Express from Istanbul to Paris, where he'll then go to the United Kingdom. However, the train is stalled by snow-packed tracks, which conveniently provide Poirot with the time necessary to solve the murder of a man in his train car. However, there are two critiques that demonstrate a discordance in the film. I do want to add a footnote here that these two parts that I'm going to mention may need additional polish, but it should be noted that they could very well be nullified upon subsequent screenings, as the story's intricacy and just the film itself really are conducive for rewatching the film over and over again. As such, you're probably, as you do that, you're gonna get more details and have additional clarity on things. First, it should be mentioned that the sequence showing the passengers boarding the train is well done. Outside of three characters, Poirot, Colonel Arbuthnot, and Mary Debenham, it serves as the prime introduction of all the other main characters, and the way in which they're featured is really nice. While the passengers are boarding the train, the camera does pan over and show both an Arab and an African family, and you're left thinking that they too are boarding the train. Sadly, this is the only time you see them, and they are not key characters in the film, and it appears as though they're really only included here to give the Orient Express its exotic flair. Despite the murder taking place in Poirot's train car, every passenger on the train should have been investigated. That's just logic. Specifically, since it's been stressed through dialogue how the train is at maximum capacity. And this is actually mentioned and alluded to several times. So, since the group of suspects are purportedly not the only passengers, as it seems like there are other individuals aboard the train, it just is very weird that they have that, and that they could have easily fixed it by having one of the characters say, "Wow, I'm surprised how uncharacteristically small the number of travelers we have on this trip." Doing this would have definitely provided more continuity. Instead, highlighting a cast of American and European characters as the suspects, and using trivial extras to depict foreign characters in an attempt to show the global demographic of the occupants of the train is very noticeable and pretty narrow-sighted. If this was done, just focusing on the Americans and the Europeans in the lead cast here and supporting cast, if this was done because the only passengers who had access to the car in which the murder took place were these characters, then that definitely should have been explained more clearly, because watching the film, you're like, wait, aren't there way more people on the train that aren't just a bunch of Europeans and Americans? So, because the camera definitely highlighted it, so it's kind of odd. There is, however, what appears to be the fact that characters are seen moving in and out of the car, so that obviously doesn't make sense. So clearly we need more explanation here. On the other hand, it may ironically show that only the Western passengers are the neurotic ones who are potential killers. Historically and more realistically, however, it is likely indicative of both the time frame in which Christie penned the story, and her characters are often Western-centric, as well as a reflection of the time and period in which the film was produced. These observations are not story-breaking by any means, but definitely should be noted nevertheless. My second critique is that the snowblock train tracks are pretty confounding. Though it is treated as a core plot point, an argument could be made that it is unnecessary and actually serves no true purpose in the film and is thus a MacGuffin. The film implies that the snow delay allows enough time for Poirot to conduct his investigation, but from a viewer's standpoint, and the film specifically mentions this, they're stuck in Yugoslavia, and once the investigation commences, you really lose the concept of time, and this insinuates that the mystery is actually solved pretty rapidly. But by the end of the film, I was really left wondering why there was even an avalanche, and it seemed like there could have been ample time for Poirot to conduct his investigation and give his conclusions before the train arrived at its final destination. There are some additional angles to consider, however. Perhaps this story point was included to prevent the killer or killers from making an inconspicuous escape, either while the train was moving or when it was stopped at one of its stations along its route. There may have been concern that the story, either Christie's original or Paul Denn's screenplay, would receive criticism if Poirot miraculously solved the mystery just as the train is preparing to make its final stop in Paris. These are all pertinent issues and should be weighed accordingly. This analysis notwithstanding, I still felt like the avalanche was overhanded. Murder on the Orient Express's pace is definitely structured as a slow burn. A slower pace is typical for this type of film, as the mystery is not solved until the very last minute. Fortunately, the murder, mystery, and investigation all enliven the story and breathe life into it and the pacing. Though the pace in general is slower here, the aspects of the mystery and the investigation will keep you on your toes. Yet, viewers are going to want to be made aware of the fact that Murder on the Orient Express is not a high-action, high-speed mystery film. As the story develops, there may be parts you consider to be too convenient or perhaps lazy. I really encourage you to watch the movie to the very end. Despite my previously mentioned critiques, the third act is entertaining as Poirot posits his theories about the murder. There is another crucial element that is very serendipitous, but I'm not going to say what it is for spoilers. But without it, you just wouldn't have the story or the film. So there's that to consider. Tonally, the film is steeped in a mystery that is replete with red herrings and distractions, and it really features a small pool of culprits. This keeps the film's framework tight and unpredictable, as there are not hundreds of passengers to be interviewed, but there are only a small amount. This ties back into what I was saying about the passengers and the depiction there. They really should have just said, wow, we're surprised at how few passengers are on the train at the moment, or really hammered it home that only certain people had access to this car. As such, with the film being focused on a small cast, it is similar in this tone and feel to Quentin Tarantino's The Hateful Eight, whereas The Hateful Eight features a small group of people confined in a cabin. Murder on the Orient Express presents a distilled cast aboard a train. The opening sequence is actually very similar in tone to the Charles Lindbergh baby kidnapping case, both of which were horrendous. Given the way it introduces the film, you're led to believe that the sequence will have an impact on the main narrative, and the way in which it is not treated merely as some expository element is commendable and convincingly executed. Strong performances are provided by the entire cast. Each character is distinct, and audiences will question whether or not character traits are idiosyncrasies or red herrings. This makes for an active and entertaining viewing experience. Albert Finney's Hercule Poirot is masterfully portrayed. Poirot's sharp, detail-oriented mentality is a highlight of the character and is on full display here. Finney's portrayal of Poirot's own eccentricities and interactions with the other passengers are great. Lauren Bacall's Mrs. Hubbard is the most flamboyant character in the movie. Bacall does a terrific job at depicting her character's boisterous behavior that really lends credence to the stereotype of Americans being bombastic and abrasive and in your face. Mrs. Hubbard is juxtaposed by Ingrid Bergman's Greta, who is more of a quiet character with an interesting past. Complementing the shy nature of the character is the fact that Greta really doesn't have a whole lot of screen time. Yet, Bergman must have made a positive impression on Academy voters as she was awarded the Oscar for Actress in a Supporting Role. Sean Connery's Colonel Arbuthnot is well acted. Although Connery sounds the same as he does in nearly all of his other films, he does deliver some lines in a very comedic manner, but in general, he's kind of outspoken in a negative way. Further, Connery has good on-screen chemistry with Vanessa Redgrave, who plays Mary Debenham. Jacqueline Bissett's Countess Andreani, Jean-Pierre Cassell's Pierre, John Gielgud's Beddoes, Wendy Hiller's Princess Dragomirov, Michael York's Count Andreani, Richard Widmark's Ratchet, Anthony Perkins's McQueen, and Rachel Roberts' Hildegard all provide convincing performances of their respective characters. Their interactions with one another, their unique qualities, and their reactions to the murder and Poirot's questions are well done. In short, the characters and the actresses' performances are hallmarks of the film. Murder on the Orient Express has impressive technicality, the production design is wonderful, the sets are beautifully constructed, and when mixed with the cinematography, really make you feel as though you are right there in the train with the characters, and right there in the train's compact, tight quarters. And this is also augmented by the use of close-ups in the cinematography. There is, however, one moment, at least, when a camera rises in a cabin and goes into a high-angle shot. Though it was composed very nicely, it did serve as a reminder that the cabin was a set. Similarly, the film's main musical theme exquisitely complements the film's aesthetic and train motif, and the orchestral rhythm effectively mirrors the perpetual tempo and the chug of the Orient Express's steam engine. While some elements should have been reworked and polished, Sidney Lumet does provide strong direction as evidenced by the convincing performances and remarkable technicality. In addition to Bergman's Oscar win, Murder on the Orient Express received the following nominations: Actor for Albert Finney, Cinematography, Writing for Screenplay adapted from other material, Music for Original Dramatic Score, and Costume Design. In the end, Murder on the Orient Express does have some problems, but is still very much a enjoyable, fun mystery film. I did think that the probably overall package in Witness for the Prosecution, which is another Agatha Christie film adaptation, was tighter than this. Given my critiques that I've mentioned, those aren't necessarily story and mystery breaking critiques, but they just stand out kind of like sore thumbs, and that was not present in Witness for the Prosecution. But Murder on the Orient Express does really handle the diverse characters and their complexities and how that feeds into the mystery quite well. The mystery itself will keep you perceptive of the context, details, and amalgamation of characters. If you are looking for an unpredictable, complex mystery, or if you enjoy the methodical, constrained train sequences often featured in James Bond films, then it would behoove you to watch this whodunit and really train sequence of a movie. It is definitely one of those movies that you will enjoy dissecting with others and rewatching to get further understanding of these story elements and characters. So that's my review of Murder on the Orient Express. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below and on our social media channels. As always, our full written review is available at popculturecrossing.com. In the meantime, why don't you let me know what your favorite mystery film is, as well as what your favorite Agatha Christie film adaptation is. I'm curious to hear your picks there and read those throughout the week. And I appreciate your support and all the other social media stuff. If you would like, subscribe, or follow us if you enjoy our content, we always appreciate that. And I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.